Hey there, rookies. Are you looking to buy your first rental property and you don't know if cash flow or appreciation is better or what those words even mean? Don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to teach you about both and the pros and cons of each. So let's do this. Hey there, friends. My name is Anson Young. I am a real estate agent and investor here in beautiful Denver, Colorado. We do fix and flips, we do wholesales, and we do BRRRR properties in Denver and in a few other markets as well. I also wrote the book, Finding and Funding Great Deals, out through our friends at Bigger Pockets. Since you're right here on the Rookie Real Estate channel, please leave them a like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below telling me if you're on team cash flow or team appreciation. I would love to read any comments that you guys have. The age-old fight between cash flow and appreciation. This fight rages on with many investors on one team or the other, or sometimes both. These are questions that many rookie investors ask. Which one is better? What should I be looking for? Why can't I have both? Which one works best for me? Hint, really only you can answer that question, because it definitely depends on your business goals and what you want out of your rental properties. But before we jump in, let's first define what each one of these are. The first one is appreciation. Appreciation is when your property value goes up at an above average rate, giving you more equity in that property. If you bought 123 Main Street in Appreciation Town for $200,000 5 years ago, and now it's worth $300,000, you are in a strong appreciation market. You would then have $100,000 in equity on paper, because you can't really tap into that equity without refinancing or selling the property. But the property is worth much more than when you bought it. So cash flow is the amount of money that's left over after you take in your rent and then you pay all of your expenses like the mortgage and the insurance and the property tax and your improvements and your slush fund and whatever else you have to fund for your expenses. The money that's left over is the amount of cash flow. So technically $1 over expenses is cash flow, but typically investors, when they talk about a cash flow market, it's cash flowing between $300 and $500 at least, or more. Some investors are okay with $100 or $200. I would say that a heavy cash flow market, you're looking at more than $300 per unit in cash flow. So you bought 789 Elm Street in cash flow land, and the rent is $1,200. Your expenses are $900. That means that your take-home cash flow is $300. Very simple math. So let's first get into appreciation and the pros and cons of what this means. So you know those old school landlords who bought 20 properties in the 80s for the price of like 3 Big Mac sandwiches, right? Now their portfolio is worth millions and millions of dollars because they benefited heavily from appreciation. Although in the last 4 years or so, almost everybody's benefited from appreciation, but this is typically what it means in this context. So here are some pros for appreciation, and the first one is that your home value is worth more, which means you can tap into that equity and use that cash to buy more properties or pay off other properties. There's kind of a lot of things you can do with that cash, but your house is going up in value, which means your portfolio is going up in value. It also means you can pull out some of that cash, tax-free of course, and use it for other things. The second thing is that these are growth markets. These properties are typically worth more than the cash flow markets. They're nicer homes, nicer quality of tenants. There's a lot of factors in those markets that's contributing to the house prices rising. And those are really good reasons for having a long-term play in an appreciation market. The third thing is that if there is a recession or a downturn or a crash, a lot of times the appreciation markets are the last ones to feel the effects and the first ones to bounce back. These are capital city markets. These are places where people want to live. This is where job centers are, and there's a lot of activity going on. So when a recession happens, they feel it later, and then they bounce back faster. Those are all good things. And now for some of the cons. And the first one is that the value isn't guaranteed. So if your 123 Main Street in Appreciation Town is worth $300,000, then we have a downturn and it's now only worth $200,000. And you also have a low amount of cash flow because typically in an appreciation market, your cash flow is lower. Now you have not a lot of equity in a property that has not a lot of cash flow. So it can be hard to hold on to these properties through any kind of turbulence. The second thing is that that equity is trapped in the property. So you can't tap into that $100,000 on 123 Main Street until you either refinance. So if interest rates are going up and you're trying to refinance and get some of that money out, now your payment might go up. You know, that equity is in there until you pull it out. So you can either refinance it or you can sell it, but then you're not benefiting from appreciation anymore. You just cashed out. Ching, you're done. And the third thing is that typically high appreciation markets aren't great for cash flow. It's just the nature of the beast. If you're paying $500,000 for a property, you're not going to even be able to meet that 1% rule and rent it out for $5,000. You might get $3,200 a month. You might break even, but the appreciation is going up. So there are definitely some trade-offs there. All right, let's get into cash flow. So this is for those who want to quit their job with some income that's coming in every single month. This is the higher amount of income because, you know, you can't really pay your bills with equity that's locked into a property. So this is for my cash money crew and cash flow investors out there. And here are some pros. First one is typically there are more value plays in a cash flow market. This is somewhere where the rents haven't been raised in a long time. You can buy the properties for a bigger discount. So you can buy into a property and you can actually do BRRRRs in this type of market where you can buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and get your money back out and have some room to bump up rents that haven't been at market rent for a long time. The second benefit is that strong cash flow across your portfolio means that you can take hits even easier. So if you have a maintenance issue at one of your properties and you have a high amount of cash flow coming in on your 2, 3, 4 properties, replacing that furnace or replacing that roof isn't going to be as painful as if you're breaking even or bringing in at $100 or $200 a door in that high appreciation market. You should be sitting on more cash in the cash flow market. And the third thing is that in cash flow markets, the price of the homes are much lower. You can still buy $50,000 properties in these markets and rent them for $750,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. You could do 5 or 7 or 10 times the amount of deals in a cash flow market for the same cost as doing one deal in an appreciation market. Those are some of the pros. Now let's get into some of the cons. So high cash flow markets, usually with their lower prices, they have lower quality of tenants. And since these properties don't appreciate very much, you are not sitting on any equity or any cushion. So if there's a downturn, you're going to be upside down in some of these properties until they finally bounce back, which takes a bit longer. There's a lot of factors in that market which is holding the growth of those properties and those areas at a certain level. And so your property on 789 Elm Street in cash flow land, it might be worth the exact amount that you paid for it 4 or 5 years ago. That's just the nature of the beast. And the second downside is that I touched on it earlier, but high cash flow markets are typically the first to get hit in a recession or a downturn or a crash, and they are the last ones to bounce back. So you're going to have to hold on and just ride through the storm when it comes to any kind of downturn that happens in your portfolio in a cash flow market. So which one is best? Which one wins? I say both. It makes a lot of sense to diversify your portfolio across cash flow markets and appreciation markets so that you can really hedge your bets either way. You can benefit from some equity in certain areas and you can benefit from some high cash flow in other areas, just knowing that those properties in cash flow town aren't going to appreciate very high. And those properties in appreciation land, they're just not going to cash flow very high. One hack that you can do is that you can look to maximize your cash flow in an appreciation market by thinking a little bit outside of the box. And so taking a house and instead of renting it long-term for low cash flow, maybe look into short-term rentals, room-by-room rentals, mid-term rentals for some traveling nurses. There are a lot of ways to boost and maximize your cash flow in an appreciation market. But you have to think a little bit outside the box, and you're not looking for those year or two long leases. You're looking for shorter plays that are more work, but have a good payoff. So then you can benefit from both cash flow and appreciation. Can't really do that in the cash flow market. So definitely do what works best for you and your business. So there you have it. Get out there, take some massive action. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anson. If you want to hear more from me, please find me on Instagram or YouTube. Happy investing. Until next time.